Chapter 7. Willivanna. Marvin was unconscious for 3 days. When he woke up, he found himself in a hospital bed. His bill was in bandages. A chart at the foot of his bed was signed by his doctor, M.D. Platypus, M.D. Marvin had no idea what he was doing there. The last thing he could remember was going up an elevator inside a tree to see an owl. Now here he was, sharing a hospital room with an antelope wearing rose-colored glasses. "Welcome back to reality, I'm sorry to say," said Andrew Antelope. "Where am I?" Marvin asked in a voice altered by his bandaged bill. "Willivanna General Hospital." "I'm not in Juggalo?" "No, you're in Willivanna. They say that you came shooting over here from Juggalo and hit a tree. Congratulations on your escape. Would you like a piece of pie or a piece of advice?" "How's the pie?" "Terrible. Hospital food, you know."
"Then I guess I'll take the advice."
Okay, here it is. When the Willivanna Central Intelligence Agent comes in here to talk to you, put yourself in the best light possible. Here he comes now. A Peacock WCI agent came into the room to ask Marvin a question. The question was, "What good are you?" Animals that escaped from Juggalo were naturally suspected of being potential troublemakers, so they were allowed to stay in Willivanna only if they had a special talent or skill. That's why Andrew Antelope advised Marvin to put himself in the best light possible. "So you've regained consciousness," said the Peacock. "Well, there's no point in asking how you escaped. You tested positive for the memory-erasing potion we've been finding in Juggaloan prisoners that come hurtling over here. Right now, I just want to ask you one question. What good are you?" Marvin didn't like to brag, so he didn't say that he excelled in the art of camouflage. He thought about the antelope's advice and turned his body toward the ceiling light to put himself in the best light possible.
"Well, I don't know what to tell you," he said. "I don't have any special talents or skills."
"What a fool!" Andrew blurted out. The Peacock was shocked. Nobody had ever told him that. Everybody always went on and on about how great they were. "You must be an honest duck," said the Peacock. "We could use more honesty here in Willivanna. I'm going to let you stay. I'll be back in a minute to take your footprint so I can scan it into our computer system." "Wow! Sometimes it pays to be a fool," Andrew said when the Peacock was gone. "Congratulations on being allowed to stay in Willivanna. Any big plans?"
"No."
"Want a grass salad or a suggestion?"
"How's the grass salad?"
"Terrible. Hospital food, you know."
"Then I guess I'll take the suggestion."
Okay, here it is. Go to Crazy Lake and see if you can find a medallion. I got it from a kangaroo who said that it was a magic medallion. Marvin sat up in bed.
"Did you say a magic medallion?"
"Yes."
"Does it help you get wised up?"
"The kangaroo said that it does." "How do you know about it?"
"I heard about it back in Forngle. A sloth bear mentioned it. How does it work?"
"I can only tell you what the kangaroo told me. She said that it works for you only if you have a pure heart. If you've got a pure heart, your mind will become very clear. My mind didn't clear up at all, I'm sorry to say. It was just as fuzzy as it ever was. I tried everything to get a pure heart. I even went in for open heart cleansing. Nothing worked. I finally got so fed up with the medallion that I threw it into Crazy Lake. If you can find it, maybe you can have better luck than I had. You'll know it when you see it, because it has a heart embossed on it."
"How do you know when you get wised up?"
"The kangaroo said that it shines an intensely bright blue. She said that it worked for her, but maybe she was putting me on just to send me on a wild, pure heart chase. What have you got to lose?" The Peacock came back into the room and took Marvin's footprint. Then he gave Marvin the Willivanna Book of Rules and said, "Read it, and don't make me regret letting you stay. Goodbye." Marvin opened the Willivanna Book of Rules. He came across rules such as these. Animals must not cut in and do the twist while whooping cranes are doing their courtship dance. Dogs must not sniff each other in public, and spitting cobras must use spittoons. He stopped reading because Dr. Platypus came into the room. While removing the bandages, the doctor made a joke about giving Marvin a clean bill of health. Then he gave Marvin an antibiotic with a warning. It's pretty strong stuff. When it starts taking effect, things might get a little weird. No need to worry. It's just a side effect that will pass. Chapter 8. Crazy Lake. Marvin waddled out of Willivanna General Hospital with the Willivanna Book of Rules tucked in his wing pit. He felt fortunate to have been given permanent resident status and was determined to be a good citizen and not break any rules. He wanted to find a nice pond to live in, and he hoped that he would be welcomed there with open wings and that there wouldn't be too many territorial issues. But first, he wanted to go to Crazy Lake. He wanted to find the Magic Medallion. If he had been able to fly, Marvin could have made it to Crazy Lake in a couple of minutes. As it was, it would take him a couple of hours. That was the story of Marvin's life. On his way to Crazy Lake, Marvin entered Weirdville, or so it seemed. He saw lovebirds quarreling, old dogs performing new tricks, and chameleons wearing shocking pink. Dr. Platypus told him that the medication might temporarily make things a little weird, but things were more than a little weird. Man-o'-wars were pacifists, ladybugs were unladylike, St. Bernards were sinners, Tasmanian devils were angelic, lambs were rough and tough, birds of a feather stayed by themselves, and Great Danes were mediocre. He had to sit down. He leaned back against a rock that was as soft as a feather and looked out at mountain goats in a valley, sheep that were born leaders, stink bugs that smelled good, gypsy moths that were homebodies, and ants that were uncles. There were frowning Cheshire cats, smiling basset hounds, unhappy larks, tame wild boars, chickens that were lion-hearted, and lions that were chicken. Gradually, things returned to normal. Anteaters were eating ants, flies were flying, hummingbirds were humming, cheetahs were cheating, and monkeys were engaged in monkey business. Marvin got himself back to his feet and continued heading for Crazy Lake. He wanted to find the Magic Medallion and get wised up. He'd know when he got wised up, according to the antelope, because the medallion would shine an intensely bright blue. Crazy Lake wasn't named Crazy Lake for nothing. It had fresh water and salt water and pepper water, too. On either side of a low bridge across the lake were glass-sided, oxygen-filled elevators called oxivators. The oxivators went down into the lake and enabled land animals to visit the lake creatures. It was not uncommon for a glowworm to visit a flashlight fish, or for a wasp to visit a stingray, or for a moon bear to visit a starfish. Animals often went down to buy things from the many underwater arts and crafts vendors. The oxivators had internal and external microphones for conversation and narrow automatic trays for passing things into and outside of the oxivators. The automatic trays went out and came back in just 3 seconds. The water that got into the oxivators during those 3 seconds was sucked out when the oxivators got back up to the bridge. All power was supplied by the eels of General Eel-Electric. It was late afternoon when Marvin arrived at Crazy Lake. He got in line at the entrance to the oxivators behind a mare that had her mane in curlers, and he asked the mare if she knew if anyone had found a medallion in the lake in the past 6 months. The mare said that the creature to talk to was a giant octopus named Octavian Reddy, an arts and crafts vendor who operated under the business name Crazy Lake Findings. Marvin made it to the front of the line and was received by a dear receptionist wearing a name card that read, Jane Doe. "And who are you here to see?" Jane inquired. "Octavian Reddy of Crazy Lake Findings," Marvin replied. Jane hit the necessary keys on her keyboard and saw on her computer screen that Octavian Reddy had a visitor, a bull moose named Hank Moosevich. "I'm sorry, Octavian Reddy has a visitor now," Jane said, "but I'll call down and ask him when he can see you. Your name?" "Marvin Mallard." Octavian agreed to meet Marvin Mallard at 4:45. At 4:40, Marvin was sent down in Oxivator 32. On his way down, he saw a teary-eyed bull moose coming up. It was Hank Moosevich. Hank had just spent half an hour giving his friend Octavian Reddy a sob story about his girlfriend breaking up with him because of his bad temper and going back home to Massachusetts. Crazy Lake was very deep. On the long ride down, Marvin also saw a giant leatherback turtle, a seahorse race, a waterbed store, and a movie theater with a marquee ballyhooing and underwater action movie starring a swashbuckling swordfish. Pop! Something popped. A rivet rolling around on the floor, had popped off the automatic tray. 2 other rivets were rolling around on the floor. Maintenance had become a problem. A week before, a rhinoceros pushed the button to go back up after visiting a lobster, and everything went up except the rhino and the floor of the oxivator. The tragic death, which made the front page of the Willa Vanna Gazette, made many animals stop going down for visits. It also made carnivorous crazy lakers hang around the oxivators. A barracuda and a shark saw the mallard coming down and circled the oxivator as it continued its underwater descent, but they swam away when they saw Octavian ready, waiting for the oxivator to touch down. Nobody in Crazy Lake wanted to get sucker-punched by the giant octopus. With all kinds of findings for sale stuck onto his suckers, Octavian stepped up to the oxivator. He had wristwatches, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, and sunglasses. He had a cowbell, a waffle maker, a bugle, a digital camera, a golf club, and a whole lot more. He had so many things stuck onto his legs that the only part of him that Marvin could see was his head. "So, what can I do for you, Marvin Mallard?" "Do you have a medallion?" Pop! Another rivet popped off the automatic tray. "Sure do. Here it is. All it needs is a good shine." Marvin saw that it had a heart embossed on it, just like the antelope with the rose-colored glasses said that the Magic Medallion had. Octavian thought that the medallion had no real value, except perhaps sentimental value. He saw Marvin looking at the medallion carefully and figured that Marvin had lost it and now wanted it back. "Finders keepers, losers weepers," Octavian said, hoping that it had some sentimental value for Marvin, so that he could charge him more for it. "Could I please just borrow it?" Marvin asked. "I promised to bring it back." Octavian was confused, but Marvin Mallard struck him as being an honest duck, and he saw the opportunity to have Marvin do him a favor. "I will let you just borrow it," Octavian said. "I'll even lend it to you in advance if you promise to do me a favor. Actually, it would be a favor from my good friend, Hank Musevich. Just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it, as long as it's not going to get me into trouble. I don't want to break any rules." Pop! Another rivet popped off the automatic tray. "You're not going to break any rules. Go to Massachusetts. There's a cow moose there named Musil Usme. Tell her that Hank Musevich can't live without her and that he's willing to take anger management classes if she'll go back to him." "Can you play the guitar?" "No." "Darn, a little serenading would be a nice touch. Well, then that's enough. Now send the tray out so I can give you the medallion." Marvin sent the tray out. 3 seconds later he had the medallion. He put it around his neck. Pop! Another rivet popped off the automatic tray. And then the automatic tray broke off. Water poured into the oxivator. "Push the up button!" Octavian shouted. Marvin pushed the up button, but the oxivator stayed right there. And then the whole front part of the oxivator broke off. The glass pushed Octavian back and sent several things flying off his legs. Half a second is all the time Marvin had to take a deep breath of the last air to breathe between there and the top of the lake. The Willa Vanna Book of Rules went out from under his wing and got washed away as he swam straight up. The barracuda and the shark saw the duck swimming up from the broken oxivator and attacked from opposite sides. Marvin closed his eyes and felt himself get caught and pulled. Octavian had grabbed him and pulled him down in the nick of time. The barracuda and the shark crashed head-on and suffered such serious injuries that they would have to be taken to the emergency room at Crazy Lake General Hospital. Octavian took Marvin to the top of the lake as fast as he could get him there and threw him out onto the bridge. There Marvin lay, drowned duck blue, until a stork revived him with beak-to-bill resuscitation. Chapter 9. Mallard on a Mission. The sun was going down. Marvin staggered to his feet and did more wobbling than waddling to the railing on the side of the bridge. While leaning against the railing, he overheard a goat say, "I've seen a medallion like that one before, on an antelope. I'll never forget that antelope. He was wearing rose-colored glasses." Marvin stood up straight. He looked down and saw that he was wearing the medallion. He turned it so he could see it with the heart right side up. It was made of bronze, but it lacked any luster that it may once have had. Months of exposure to the underwater elements had left it in need of a good scrub. He ran his wingtips over the heart and remembered what the antelope with the rose-colored glasses said that the kangaroo told him. "If you have a pure heart, The medallion will make your mind very clear. Well, his mind wasn't clear at all right now. Of course, he was still recovering from having almost drowned, so he would give it a little time. If he didn't have a pure heart, then he would have to try to get one. But he would stop short of going in for open-heart cleansing like the antelope with the rose-colored glasses did. The medallion swung in front of him as he waddled off with a bounce in his step. He tucked it into his wing pit to stop the swing and kept on waddling, one webbed foot in front of the other. He was on a mission to get himself wised up so he could stay out of trouble. And he was going to have to get another copy of the Will of Anna Book of Rules the first chance he had. It suddenly occurred to him that staying out of trouble was simply not doing anything bad. That was very different, he realized, from actually doing something good. He told himself that he wanted to do some good things. Then he said aloud, "Now how can I get wised up?" A gnu happened to hear Marvin ask himself this question. Standing upright and holding a box of the candy Tutti Frutti Gnudis, Guy Gnu said, "Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Wise Guy." "You're not the first wise guy I've met." "You don't understand. My first name is Guy, but everybody says I'm wise, so they call me Wise Guy." "And do you know how I became wise? By eating these wisdom pills. That's how. Would you like one?" Marvin watched Guy Gnu throw a Tutti Frutti Gnudi up into the air and catch it in his mouth. It was perfectly clear to him that the gnu was trying to trick him, but he decided to play along. "Do they work?" "They sure do. My cousin Alec was stupid until he took wisdom pills. Now he's so smart that everybody calls him Smart Alec." "Okay, I'll take one." "Not so fast. First you have to take the ticks off my back." "No, first you have to give me one so I can see if it works." "No deal." "Why not?" Guy Gnu threw another Tutti Frutti Gnudi up into the air, but he missed catching this one in his mouth and it went into one of his nose holes. "Because I'm not the stupid one here, you are." "That's not a very nice thing to say." "Hey, I'm Wise Guy, not Good Guy. And that's the way I like it, because it's better to be smart than to be good." Marvin was sure that what the gnu just said was wrong. His mind was clear. He thought that perhaps the medallion was working. "If you really think so," he said confidently, "then you're not as smart as you think you are." "Hey, I'm even smarter than I think I am." Marvin's mind was clearer than it had ever been. He knew now that the medallion was indeed working. "It would be better if you were nicer than you thought you were," he said. "You think you're pretty smart, don't you?" "No, but I'm getting smarter. Goodbye." Marvin waddled away resolute. He was on a mission, and he had better things to do than take the ticks off a tricky gnu's back. Bam! Something hit him in the back of the head. He turned around and saw Guy Gnu throwing another Tutti Frutti Gnudi at him. He ducked to avoid getting hit again, and then ran out of throwing range. Darkness was setting in, so Marvin needed to find a place to spend the night. He found a good place under a hedge and scooted himself under it. Looking out, he could see part of a starry sky. Forngall seemed light years away. He figured that the word was out back in Forngall that he escaped from Jugaloo. He wondered if perhaps he should go back to Jugaloo and turn himself in. He felt that he deserved at least 3 months of hard labor. The Forngall board gave him a chance and he blew it. And he blew it within an hour of being given the chance. But he was afraid of turning himself into the Jugaloo authorities because his subconscious had a recording of Digger Von Under telling him that the authorities would lock him up and throw away the key. He wanted to go back to Forngall someday. He wanted to go to the quackery and tell the ducklinquents that they should strive to do good deeds instead of just try to stay out of trouble. He wanted to go to Duckmont High and tell the students that they should be true to themselves and resist peer pressure. He wanted to tell Cool Regis that he was wrong when he said that breaking rules is okay if you don't get caught. He wanted to apologize to the zebra he splashed, and he wanted very much to apologize to Henny Clucker, who he hoped would soon be laying eggs again. Marvin's body was worn out, but his mind was wound up. He tossed and turned and seemed to be back in Weirdville with his dreams. In one dream he received a congratulations card from Principal Ruffled-Feathers, which read, "You're getting wised up, so congratulations to ya. You don't want to be a fool again, do ya? Do ya? Do ya? Do ya?"